Good morning, members of the press, and good morning to all St. Lucians listening via our live stream. I am WSPC Zaid Romulus, attached to the Police Press Office. Welcome to our press conference. Allow me to introduce the head table. Joining Police Commissioner Verngard today are Assistant Commissioner of Police with responsibility for the Central Division, Mr. Luke De Freitas, Assistant Commissioner of Police for the Southern Division, Mr. Albert Shalry, Superintendent Troy Lamontine, who is the head of the Department of Road Safety and Traffic Investigations, and Inspector Lucia Small, the head of the Special Services Unit. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of other officers of other ranks and a cohort from the Police Training Academy. Also, Ms. Anya Charles, who is the Director of the Youth Development Empowerment Program. This morning, we'll be sharing the latest on crime trends, traffic figures, along with updates on recent incidents that have concerned the public and on major investigations that you've all been following closely. Following these presentations, we will open the floor for questions from the media. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Troy Lamontine, Superintendent, to present the Serious Crime Analysis Report.
Good morning, everybody. Okay. For the next 15 minutes or so, please allow me to indulge you in the presentation of crime statistics and traffic offense statistics for the period January 1st, 2025 to September 24th, 2025, with comparisons made for the same period in 2024. Before I actually go into the presentation, permit me to introduce you to a few definitions to avoid any ambiguity and for ease of understanding during the delivery of the presentation. The sampling frame was derived from the monthly crime. The sampling frame was derived from monthly crime statistics submitted by the following police stations and units operating within St. Lucia. The Northern Division, which encompasses Grosley, Rodney Bay, Babonneau, Richford, and Dennery. Central Division, which includes the Criminal Investigations Department, CID, the Beat and Patrol Division, Marsha Police Station, Marigot, Ancillary, Canaries. Southern Division, which include Micoud, Viewport, Labrie, Choiseul, and Soufrière Police Station, as well as other units, the Vulnerable Persons Team, the Major Crime Unit, the Gangs, Narcotics, Firearms Unit, the Special Services Unit, the Department of Road Safety and Traffic Investigations, and the Police Marine Unit. The important terms which I referred to earlier, the Crime Management System, which is the electronic crime recording database, which is specifically tailored to the RSLPF to record reports of criminal incidents at every police station and department. Cases reported, these include every criminal incident reported to the police and recorded in the Police Crime Management System. Cases accepted, incidents reported to the police where an assessment is made during the initial process that the reported case is of a criminal nature and there is a likelihood that it is true and is therefore accepted for investigation or inquiry. Cases detected, criminal incidents reported to the police where investigations have been completed. These include cases where suspects have been arrested and charged, Warrants of arrest have been issued. Warnings have been effected or issued on persons the complaints were made again. Cases where virtual complainants have requested no further action for one reason or another, or the report through a process of inquiry was found to be false. 2025 recorded, and remember the frame is January 1st to September 24, 2025. So any reference to 2024 or 2025 is within that time period. 2025 recorded 10,557 cases compared to 12,552 in the same period in 2024. This represents a 16% reduction, 1,965 cases in the total number of accepted cases. Notwithstanding the reduction in the overall number of cases, 1,287 fewer cases, representing 18%, were detected in 2025. The Central Division recorded the majority of crimes, accounting for 42% of total incidents. The Southern Division followed with 35%, while the Northern Division accounted for 23% of the total number of cases. For the period under review, 7 out of the 8 priority offenses experienced reductions. The number of murders are 1 less, representing a 2% reduction. Burglaries decreased by 178 cases, or 40%. Robberies also decreased by 40 cases, representing 29%. Narcotics offenses reduced by 34 cases, or 14%. Reports of stolen motor vehicles decreased by 21 cases, representing 36%. Stealing from person also reduced by 1 case, 1%. The number of sexual offense cases decreased by 43 cases, or 26%. Firearm offenses was the only category experiencing an increase of 9 cases, or 4% in the period under review. We'll now go into an analysis of homicide murder cases. From January 1 to September 24, 2025, the island has recorded a total of 59 homicides. These include 57 murders, 1 police-related shooting death, and 1 unclassified death. For the same period in 2024, there were a total of 60 homicides, which comprised 58 murders, 2 police-related shooting deaths. There were 41 attempted murder cases recorded in 2025, compared to 20 in 2024, representing a 105% increase. This is significant, as every attempt to unlawfully kill is a potential murder case. Distribution of murders by policing divisions. The Central Division recorded the majority, 51% of the total number of murders. The Northern Division followed with 16 murders, or 28%. The Southern Division recorded the least number, 12 cases, or 21%. For the past 5 years, the Central Division has recorded the majority of murders, with the exception of 2023, where the Southern sector accounted for the highest number of cases. This is attributed to the period where there was rising gang violence, gang-on-gun violence in the community of Vieux Fort. Murder distribution by district or community. Although the Central Division recorded the highest number of murders, 29 incidents, Castries surrounding communities recorded the highest, 15 murders, with the Central Division following by Castries outlying communities recording 7 murders. Within the Northern Division, Grosile recorded 8, followed by Richmond recording 5, Barbono recording 3, and Dennery recording 1. In the Southern Division, whilst Vieux-Fort recorded the most, which was 7, followed by Soufrière and Choiseul with 2 each, and Micoud recording 1 incident of murder. Detection rate for murder. Of the 57 murders recorded, 18 or 32% have been solved. The remaining 39 cases, representing 68%, remain under active police investigation. To date, the monthly comparison for 2025 revealed that September has the highest number, 13 murders, while March had the lowest, 2 murders. The numbers peaked again in April with 8. June and July each experienced 7 and 8 murders, respectively. August experienced a decline, 5, which then peaked to its highest in September. This data reveals a notable fluctuation in murder rates throughout the year. Similar to 2024, the current review period in 2025 indicates that firearms remain the most prevalent weapon used to commit murders, with 48 cases being gun-related. Sharp objects were used in 10 of the cases, and blunt objects were used in 2 cases. The cause of death remains pending in 1 of the cases, and the weapon likely to have been used remains undetermined. Of the 57 murders recorded to date for 2025, 27 have been classified as gang-related, whilst 8 were categorized as reprisal killings. 7 of the murders were attributed to previous altercations between victims and perpetrators. 4 were classified as domestic disputes, and the motive for the remaining 11 are not yet known and are under active investigations. Analysis of the 2025 murder victims profile show that 28 of the victims were within ages 21 to 30. 11 victims were in the 31 to 40 age range. 12 of the victims fell within the 41 to 50 and over 50 ranges, 6 within each range. There were 4 victims aged 20 or below, sadly. 2 of the victims have not been positively identified, and therefore their ages are not known presently. 54 or 94% of the 57 victims were males and 8 were female. 3 were female. The number of firearm offenses increased by 4% from 241 in 2024 to 250 in 2025. Similarly, detected firearm offenses decreased by 39% from 172 cases in 2024 to 104 cases in 2025. For the year 2024, possession of firearm without a license and unlawful possession of ammunition accounted for the majority of firearm offenses, with 71 cases and 73 cases respectively, compared to 2025, where discharging firearm with intent was the most prominent offense with a total of 74 cases. analysis of the types of firearm that were seized. In 2025, 94 illegal weapons were seized during the numerous law enforcement operations, including 66 pistols, 9 rifles, 5 shotguns, 5 revolvers. Also seized were 2 air pistols, 2 BB guns, 3 imitation guns, and 1 submachine gun. Also, 1 flare gun was seized. In 2025, the majority of recovered accessories and component parts were 74 regular magazines, 14 extended magazines, 4 selector switches or auto says, 1 AR-15 bolt, 1 pistol slide, 1 trigger housing, and 1 boot and grip, indicating that magazines are the most common component found, with some parts indicating that firearms were modified to be made fully automatic as it relates to the selector switches. In 2025, a total of 4,856 assorted rounds of ammunition were seized, with the 9mm ammunition being the most common caliber, 3,373 representing 69%. 545 rounds of 5.56 ammunition were also seized in 2025, representing 11% or an increase of 212% when compared to 2024, when 171 rounds were seized. Notwithstanding the firearm seizure chart reflecting a 10-year comparison, comparably, 2025 has resulted in the highest number of firearms and ammunition seized for any period in the history of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. 94 illegal firearms and over 4,800 rounds of assorted ammunition has been safely taken off the streets and from the hands of criminal elements in our communities thus far. The analysis shows that in 2025, burglary cases decreased by 40% from 449 cases in 2024 to 271 cases in 2025. The detection rate also increased, with 82 out of 271 cases being resolved in 2025 versus 113 out of 449 cases in 2024. The Central Division recorded the highest number of burglaries with 151 cases, or 56%. Robbery cases also decreased from 169 in 2024 to 120 cases in 2025, representing 29%. The detection rate increased, with 32 out of 120 cases solved in 2025 versus 27 out of 120 cases, The detection rate increased, with 32 out of 120 cases solved in 2025 versus 27 out of 169 cases in the previous year, 2024. The Central Division recorded the highest number of incidents, 85 cases, 71% of the total. In 2025, stealing from person cases dropped by 1%, with 183 cases recorded. There was no change in the detection rate over the two periods. The Central Division again recorded the highest number of incidents, 120 cases, 66% of the total. Reports of theft of motor vehicles are recorded a decrease of 36% in 2025, from 59 cases in 2024 to 38 for the corresponding period in 2025. The detection rate also improved, with 14 out of 38 cases solved in 2025, compared to 15 out of 59 for the same period in 2024. Drug offenses analysis. Recorded cases of drug-related offenses decreased by 14% from 247 in 2024 to 166 in 2025. The detection rate for drug-related offenses was approximately 67% in 2024 and 91% in 2025. During the period under the review, the Gangs, Narcotics and Firearms Unit conducted 76 operations island-wide, resulting in significant seizures and destruction of illegal drugs and plants. During this period, officers destroyed 3,845 grown cannabis plants, 30 cannabis seedlings. Drug seizures included 101 kilograms of cannabis, 67 kilograms of cannabis resin, 685 kilograms of cocaine, and 378 grams of other substances, such as synthetic narcotic substances. Sexual offenses analysis. 121 sexual offense cases have been recorded in 2025, revealing a reduction of 43 cases, representing 26%, when compared to the same period in 2024. Law enforcement successfully solved 36 cases and achieved a 30% detection rate. Law enforcement operations. The RSLPF has recorded 243 intelligence-led operations, 216 tactical operations, 76 counter-narcotics operations, 534 search warrants executed, 613 traffic checks, and a total of 13,502 fixed penalty tickets issued island-wide. 5,252 fixed penalty tickets were issued for the same period in 2024, resulting in a 39% increase for the corresponding period in 2025. These operations were geared towards combating crime, preventing and disrupting murders, drug interdictions, mitigating gang violence, and promoting compliance with the island's traffic laws. Several criminals wanted and suspects were arrested for murders and other violent crimes. Distribution of fixed penalty tickets issued by operational divisions. From the 13,502 tickets issued island-wide in 2025, 12,790 of them were issued within the Northern and Central divisions collectively, and 712 were issued within the Southern division. This represents a significant increase, 39%, from the 5,252 which were issued in 2024. For the period under review, the year 2025 shows that greater number of traffic tickets were issued than in 2024. And also, the Northern and Central divisions were responsible for issuing the majority of the tickets for both periods. 75 less traffic reports were requested and issued by the Department of Road Safety in 2025 than the 308 that were requested and issued in 2024. An analysis of vehicle collisions in St. Lucia. To date, within the period under review, 3,815 vehicular collisions have been recorded island-wide. 346 or 8% less than the 4,161 recorded in 2024. The majority of these collisions were minor. 189 serious collisions have been recorded in 2025, of which 10 resulted, sadly, in road deaths. The corresponding period in 2024 recorded 241 serious collisions, resulting in 20 deaths, representing a 50% reduction in road fatalities. Thus far, for the year 2025, 10 fatal vehicular collisions were recorded island-wide, of which 5 or 50% of the victims were pedestrians. 50% were drivers and passengers. 60% of the fatalities occurred in Castries and its environs. The remaining fatal crashes was unevenly distributed on road networks such as the community of Vieux-Fort, Micoud, and in Choiseul. 80% occurred along highways and long stretches of road within the island. Victim age profile shows that the age group 20 to 30 years and 51 to 60 years were the most affected for the period under review, with 3 victims each. 2 individuals between the age group of 41 to 50 years succumbed to injuries sustained, while 1 individual between the ages of 31 to 40 years and 1 in the age range 61 and over lost their lives. More males, 8, lost their lives than females, 2, during the period. In relation to the victims, 5 of the victims of these fatal collisions were pedestrians, 2 were accompanying passengers on motor vehicles, and 3 were either a motorcycle rider or the driver of the motor vehicle in question. We now move to a summary of the key findings of the entire analysis. Serious crime decreased from 1,571 cases in 2024 to 1,253 cases in 2025. Geographically, the Central Division recorded the highest number of incidents in 2025, 42%, followed by the Southern Division with 35%, and Southern Division accounting for, the Northern Division accounting for 23%. Homicides decreased by 1 case from 2024 to 2025, with firearms being the most utilized weapon used to effect the victim's demise. 18 murders have been solved thus far this year. A total of 94 illegal firearms, along with 4,856 rounds of assorted ammunition, have been recovered during the period. Presently, out of the total 250 cases, 104 cases of firearm-related crimes have been solved, resulting in 42% detection, compared to 71% detection rate in 2024. Burglaries accounted for 431 cases, revealing a decrease of 102 cases in 2025, compared to 2024, where 533 cases were recorded. Robbery cases decreased by 26% from 211 cases in 2024 to 185 cases in 2025, with the Central Division accounting for 67% of the island-wide total. Stolen motor vehicle cases realized a 4% decrease from 71 cases in 2024 to 68 cases in 2025. The majority of the cases occurring within the Central Division. Drug offense cases increased by 15% in 2025, with cocaine seizures significantly increasing. Sexual offenses decreased by 26% in 2025 compared to the year 2024, with the Central Division accounting for the majority of the cases. A total of 1,145 police operations, including intelligence-led operations, tactical unit operations, counter-narcotic operations, search warrant executions, and traffic checks were conducted in 2024. The figure increased to 537 operations, or 47% this year, when a total of 1,682 were recorded. Traffic tickets issued over the 2-year period increased significantly, with a total of 13,502 tickets issued this year compared to 5,252 in 2024, an increase of 8,256, representing 157%. The Northern and Central Divisions were responsible for issuing the majority of tickets island-wide for both periods. Ten fatal collisions have occurred island-wide. This figure decreased by 10 or 50% when compared to 2024. Minor and serious collisions decreased significantly in 2025, with 1,591 minor collisions in 2025 compared to 1,876 in 2024. 189 serious collisions have been recorded in 2025 compared to 241 in 2024. The number of traffic police reports requested and issued in 2024 was greater than in 2025, a 24% decrease due to more collisions being reported in 2024 than on the current period, 2025. There were less accidents. This will be the end of the brief.
Thank you, Superintendent Lamontagne, for your thorough analysis. I'd like to now invite ACP Albert Shallery, who has responsibility for the 7th Division, to provide some updates on recent incidents and operations occurring within the 7th Division.
Good morning, everyone. From the beginning of the year to now, a total of 12 homicides have been recorded in the south of the country, of which 9 are currently moving within the criminal justice system. The 2 last incidents were registered during the month of September. One individual, namely Anthony Mathery of Latuni in a quarter of Vieux-Fort, has been arrested and charged for the 2 deaths that occurred on the 12th of September 2025 at Latuni Vieux-Fort. He is currently remanded at the Bodley Correctional Facility and is expected to make another court appearance on the 16th of October 2025. The last incident reported occurred on the 16th of September 2025 in the community of Vigier in the quarter of Vieux Fort. On Wednesday, the 24th of September 2025, one individual, namely Larian Swanson of Dennery, was charged in reference to these matters, and he is due to make a court appearance today. On Monday, the 22nd of September 2025, officers attached to the Southern Division conducted an operation in the Vigier community. Upon completion, 2 individuals were arrested for possession of an AR-15 rifle, a pistol, a quantity of rounds of ammunition, and a quantity of cannabis resin. The suspect, Renwick Maffrin of Vigier, was subsequently formally charged with the offense of possession of an unlicensed firearm, possession of ammunition, and possession of controlled drugs. On Wednesday, the 24th of September 2025, he was taken before the court, where bail was offered in the sum of $82,500. The thrust for the division in the year 2025 is one where we're looking at a drive to establish an ex-police group in every community or a single unit within the division, whichever one is going to be the most beneficial. We are also working on community engagement initiatives, get at building relationships with the schools, the administration, the business owners, the residents. Also to collaborate with other government agencies, assist in developing community leaders, and educating residents on the various pieces of legislation and the proper procedure to follow in planning, organizing, and executing activities successfully. There are a number of other initiatives being developed currently, which will be shared with the public at the right time. The push at this time is to maximize the participation of the public in assisting in crime fighting and keeping our communities safe. 2 areas being focused on include the conversations which have started with the retired police officers and the hosting of town hall meetings throughout the jurisdiction. As an organization, we continue to provide the opportunity so that members of the public can interact with police officers in a different setting. As such, on Friday the 26th of September 2025 at 10 a.m., members of the Soufrière Police Station, in collaboration with the Ministry of Youth and Sports, will be hosting what is dubbed the Soufrière Police Community Day. Police officers will be deployed in the community where they will spend the day with the residents. The first event will be held at Barons Drive, where presentations will be made in the following areas: community policing, conflict management, fire safety prevention, and events planning. The event will also be supported by the Soufrière Hospital staff, who will host a health fair. The management of the Southern Division has commenced consultations in regards to the hosting of Journée Creole, and by now I expect everybody to know that one of the communities listed to host the event would be Bellevue, and we are more than happy to welcome all St. Lucians to this beautiful part of St. Lucia to take part in the activity. This year, 3 major activities in the communities of Soufrière, Vieux Fort, and Labrie were held. These were all executed with no major incidents of crime being registered. I want to assure the members of the public that we will do all within our power to ensure your safety and security during all events, also at work and at play. I want to thank you all for your presence this morning. I want to thank all members of the community assisting in the fight against crime, and all police officers on a daily basis who turn up to provide a quality service. Collaboratively, ladies and gentlemen, we can achieve and we can develop stronger relationships, improve collaboration, and cultivate community leaders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ACP Shallery. And now Assistant Commissioner of Police, Luc De Freitas, will be providing some updates on occurrences within the Central Division and also the Northern Division.
Good morning, everybody. I will seek to give an overview on some matters, including our homicide status for 2025. As you would have heard from ACP Shallery, yesterday we would have made significant progress in the solving of what we've dubbed the triple homicide at Cornell's. These are the 3 persons who were discovered in the motor vehicle in Cornell's. And so just an update on our overall figures, that for 2025, we have actually solved 19 homicides. We have also applied for, and the court has issued, 6 warrants of arrest for various persons in other homicides. In addition to this, this year we have solved 2 homicides from 2024. This year in total, therefore, it means we have been able to solve 27 homicides up to this point. Like I've always said, the solving of one homicide takes immense effort from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. And to have solved 27 homicides in any one year, notwithstanding, we may want to make comparison in terms of the rate, the solve rate vis-a-vis the overall murder rate, but this represents a significant effort by the investigating agencies within the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. And for this, I want to commend the hardworking men and women of these units who are putting all effort into solving these homicides. In relation to events over the last 10 days, which would include what would have seen some homicides, and we're looking at the past 9 to 10 days, where we would have recorded 8 homicides. During that same period, I can tell you, these homicides occurred even as law enforcement embarked on a series of operations. In the corresponding period, and up to this morning, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force would have seized 14 firearms, along with ammunition, off the streets of St. Lucia. I can tell you, even on Saturday past, during the occurrence of the 2 homicides in the Dennery area, the police were actually in the area conducting operations, and these homicides occurred simultaneously. So it goes to show you that notwithstanding the fact that the police are out there, we're out there in large numbers, these persons in conflict with the law are still brazen enough to commit these heinous acts within minutes away from where law enforcement is actually operating. And I make that point to stress on an issue that Mr. Hamilton always pushes us on, the question of our presence in the communities. I've always said I will continue to emphasize that we are out there. We will continue to be out there. As the statistics have shown, our operations this year have increased significantly to the corresponding period last year. So there's no question. I do not think the Royal St. Lucia Police Force can be challenged in any way with regards to our presence and our response to what is happening in St. Lucia. I need to say that the operations during the past 10 days were not in response to the occurrences. They were actually pre-planned operations that just happened to run simultaneously with what was happening at the time. At our last press conference, the promise was made to update on the situation involving our K9 officer, Tyson, and I had indicated that we had received the findings from the pathologist. However, before we had released these findings, we wanted to do some toxicology testing to further understand what the pathologist was saying. And so, with Commissioner's permission, I do have right before me the report of the pathologist, and he basically indicated that the cause of death of K9 Officer Tyson was internal bleeding, and he suggested that it more than likely was as a result of rat bait poisoning, to put it in layman terms. He also suggested that there could have been other likely possibilities, such as severe blood clotting disorder, a low platelet count, or a severe bacterial infection. Based on the report, like we indicated at the last press conference, the toxicology was done and samples were taken from K9 Officer Tyson. We have now received the report from the forensic lab, and it indicates that there was no rat poison detected from any of the samples that were provided from the carcass of the K9 officer. It means, therefore, at this point, we need to have a sit down with the pathologist and have a review of the findings of the cause of death. On advice, we will be doing further toxicology testing just to ascertain ourselves that the question of poisoning is not the actual cause of death. But for now, no traces of rat bit or nothing, no evidence indicating that the cause of death was actually rat bit poisoning was detected by the test conducted by the forensic lab. Any further updates on this matter will be presented to you if they are available by our next press conference. I want again to appeal to the general public that the police cannot fight this crime situation without your help. We continue to stress the point, and we will not stop. I've said the public assistance has helped tremendously in recent times, and we hope that this increases tenfold as you continue to see the results that we continue to provide you with from time to time. By way of crime fighting initiatives and the implementation of strategies to support our crime fighting initiatives, I can tell the press that the Justice Protection Bill has been passed. That Justice Protection Bill, it defines the regulatory framework for the physical placement of persons into protective custody or witness protection, as we usually refer to it as. Additionally, a committee guided by the Office of the Attorney General is presently reviewing a draft Witness Protection Special Measures Act, which will support the Justice Protection Act. In the Special Measures Act, and the hope is that it will be passed before year-end, provisions are made to keep the identity of witnesses anonymous throughout the investigation of a criminal matter. So even at the investigative stage, that piece of legislation will afford us to make an application before court to keep the identity of witnesses anonymous. In a second provision of that same act, the intention is for at the criminal proceeding stage or at the trial stage that we continue to keep the identity of witnesses anonymous. So these are recent developments that we've been working on in relation to causing some faith in the public and to our witnesses in terms of what we are doing by and large to suppress our crime situation. I thank you.
Thank you, ACP De Freitas. And now I invite Police Commissioner Mr. Vern Gard, who will provide some updates on other major investigations as well as other policing matters.
Good morning. Let me just say good morning to everybody in the room here with us this morning. I also want to extend a good morning to every citizen of this country. I think my job amounts to ensuring that the public is properly informed of all law enforcement matters that arise during my tenure. I want to say that it has been, in my opinion, a very challenging 12 months since I have been Commissioner of Police. I came out with a plan, and so far we are sticking to the plan. I think I'm on record indicating in January of 2025 that whereas the Royal St. Lucia Police Force may not have a direct impact on the number of homicides in the country within the short period, but we will certainly be able to have an impact on other crimes. And basically, we are now seeing the fruits of the labor of the officers throughout the respective period. We have seen a marked decrease in the amount of burglaries, a marked decrease in the amount of robberies. Sexual offenses has gone down by 21%. In fact, let me reiterate a number from my colleague. I think it's in or around 4,800 live rounds of ammunition that have been intercepted on the streets of St. Lucia throughout the respective period. And this is a testament of the amount of work being done by my staff in the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. I want to take the opportunity to thank them. I want to thank every single police officer within this organization. I also want to thank all the other law enforcement branches that have supported us within the respective period. In my opinion, without the work of these respective staff, we would not see that 16% reduction in general crime. I also want to say, again, it gives me solace really to indicate that the number of rounds intercepted is the highest number of rounds intercepted in the history of record keeping in the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. And again, this is how hard the officers have worked to take out some of these things from the street. Even with the 95 weapons taken off the streets, because I am of the knowledge that today the work continued, and we did move 1 firearm and 12 rounds of ammunition off the streets of St. Lucia today again. And that too, that 95 firearms, for the respective period, is the highest number of firearms intercepted in the history of record keeping in the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. So something is happening on a positive side, and I must say it redounds to the work done by the great men and women in law enforcement in St. Lucia, and I want to take the opportunity to thank them. We have a lot of things going on in regards to traffic and road safety. And I think I'm on record indicating in January of this year that although we may not be able to have an impact directly on the homicide rate over the respective period, we are able to have an impact in regards to road safety. And I think we augmented the staff complement at the Department of Road Safety by almost 100% because we recognized that it was virtually impossible for us to have more than 98,000 registered vehicles on our streets being policed by only 45 persons. So we had to increase the department twofold. And now the statistics are here. Now we have seen the Department of Road Safety being proactive in that they will ensure that the vehicles are safe and persons are driving within the remit of the law. That has culminated in the reduction of fatal accidents from 20 in 2024 now to 10 in 2025. And that is the plan. That is what our intention is, to cause a reduction where we can to save the lives of St. Lucians. Because where last year we saw 22 people met their demise through road safety, it is something within our control. I think we placed more resources in that department. We changed the leadership. We trained the officers. We did the training of about 45 new officers in regards to motorcycling. So we have 45 new officers able to go on the motorcycles and to enforce the road safety department. So we've done a lot. During that period, we've had 2 or 3 matters at the top, and I usually say that of Samuel Walker's wedding cake. Matters where it has elicited great interest from the public and the media, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. In my opinion, we have been able to communicate effectively over the respective period because of our open policy with the media. We find that the media is doing a very good job in that regard. And of course, this is why we are being so transparent with the media, because we really want the citizenry to understand the law enforcement environment. And the best way to do so is with that partnership with the media. So we have had 3 major cases that keep on recurring with us. And one of them being the matter of the senior officer in the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, that particular allegations had been made in his regard. I want to again caution St. Lucians, myself, my senior officers, and also the reporting agencies, that we are guided by rules. And we do have Section 138 of the Criminal Code of St. Lucia that guides us in regards to how we relate things of crimes of a sexual nature. In that regard, I think 1 or 2 of the media houses may have erred in that they have not kept within the provision of 138 of the Criminal Code. But I guess that one would be discussed at a different level. I want to say if the criminal code posits that we should not release names of victims, names of perpetrators, and particular matters in particular cases, neither I nor the media should infringe that particular provision. I have been monitoring. It was done on the last press conference. I've guided the press, but it has continued. In the matter that I made reference to, the matter with the senior person, I am on record indicating that when I first saw the file, I did say that the file seemed to be woefully inadequate in its contents. Because I'm a former investigator myself, I understand what is the necessary ingredients for particular allegations. And in my opinion, at the time, I thought it to be woefully inadequate. However, for the abundance of caution, I applied a more senior investigator with more experience to further investigate the matter. He investigated the matter further and submitted 4 files. The 4 files that he submitted, even though as Commissioner of Police, I am the one with the responsibility to effect charges, I said no. This matter needs to be brought to the attention of the Director of Public Prosecution, and so I did. I placed all 4 matters before the Director, and on the last occasion, I indicated that on 3 of the matters, there was no possibility of prosecution on the 3 matters. I will say again that the Director of Public Prosecution has contacted me. We have sat in a meeting on the last matter, and this is the same case with the last matter. So all allegations made against the respective senior person has no possibility of prosecution. This is the end in regards to that matter. In regards to the Shakadan Daniel matter, it is one that I said gave me renewed vigor to look at the ingredients and everything else surrounding the matter. The investigator for that matter was, the primary investigator for that matter was on vacation. I reassigned the investigator again to a more senior person, and they went over the file. It was reported to me by a number of reports that the issue in the matter was the fact that the primary evidence was not available and it was missing. In fact, the initial report on the missing evidence went back as far as 2018, 2019. That is the date for it. The formal investigation that was launched in regards to that matter, the missing exhibits, were done in or around May in 2023. That was the period where the initial investigation started. So I did give terms of reference to the investigators that we need to do one thing. We need to ensure that the exhibit room, where the exhibit was originally kept, along with its records, a good search is done of that area. That search culminated in the first instance where the exhibit was still not found. And then a subsequent search was done of the area, and we retrieved the said exhibits. Subsequent to the receiving of the exhibits, we have I have given instructions to get some intimate samples of some non-intimate samples of several of the police officers who worked at the station during that period. We've submitted the exhibit itself to the lab, and the lab will be cross-referencing the DNA with these non-intimate samples. Because we want to be sure of exactly what transpired in that station on that day. Because the police in every station has a duty of care. So we have to be very cautious when somebody dies in our custody. We have to understand what caused the death. In regards to the Kimberly DeLeon matter, we looked at the matter and we looked at all the evidence in the matter. The matter is actually now with the director and have been with the director of public prosecution. We have been confronted with a situation where the ballistics testing of the items that were intercepted was sent for testing. And subsequent to that, we are unable to put our hand on that particular piece of exhibit, which is, the ballistic results. So we are now doing an investigation in and around that. So there's not much that I can say in regards to that, because that small part of the investigation has elicited another investigation. And that is how far the Royal St. Lucia Police Force will go to be transparent with the public. I know even some of the officers in the Royal St. Lucia Police Force may think that I am saying too much to the public, but I think the public is the persons that we serve, and we should serve them properly but transparently. We need to say exactly what the situation is and keep the persons abreast with what the situation is as it arises. As Commissioner of Police, I want to be a truthful Commissioner of Police. I want to be one that will say what the situation is, as it arises. So when I demit office, my legacy in the organization will be very, very clear. In regards to the Arnold Joseph matter, I think I'm on record indicating that that matter, I have sent it for before an inquest. The matter with the alleged extrajudicial killings, the two related in the Vieux-Fort area, that too is before an inquest. I think, given my 12 months, had I been a traffic officer, I would have cited the Commissioner of Police for speeding, because I have done quite a bit within the respective time. Okay, so the Commissioner of Police is indeed moving with speed in all these related matters. And it is particularly because I don't want it to be a situation where cold cases go in abeyance and are not being dealt with. And whoever has the responsibility for the commissionership of this organization is again laden with that. So most of the cold cases that we could come out with and resolve, we should resolve it in one way or the other. If we cannot resolve it within a short period, then we take time to do so. I think that is all the major ones that I think that we had to address with the public interest. Any of them, Mr. Lamontagne, I may have missed? Beg your pardon? The wedding cake matters. We've done all? Yeah, I think these are the major issues. Ms. Romulus?
I'll now invite the media to ask you questions. Remember to please state your name and media house before you pose your question. Kareem?
Kareem Nelson, St. Lucia Times. Since you just left off the Kimberly De Leon matter, I know you said it's under further investigation. That homicide occurred in 2018. We're at a point now where it's 2025. Some persons may feel like this has taken an extended period of time, which has led to suggestions of hindrance and these sort of things, and now we have an exhibit missing. On your assessment, is this something that you're committed to finding out what has happened? Like your commitment to finding out what has happened in that case and why it has taken so long? And you said is it that the ballistics report is missing or what was tested is missing? Just for my clarification.
Kareem? we have the what was tested is currently missing. All right, we have initiated an investigation internally to see how we could wrap up all the administrative matters surrounding that. As I said, you know, when you're doing investigations, you have leads, and it would not be proper for me to say certain things in regards to that. On your first part of the question, I'm committed to deal with every single law enforcement matter in St. Lucia. And that one, I am committed to follow it through. Okay?
18, well, the presentation said 18 of the homicides committed this year have been solved, but then Luke de Freitas would have mentioned that about 27 actual homicides have been solved. I know in the past the RSLPF have described some of these homicides as being retaliatory. Are you at liberty to share whether there are circumstances where suspects in certain homicides have been killed, and how does that impact solving those cases?
Anytime deaths occur, no matter who the deceased is, there is a measure of sensitivity that must be applied to the circumstance. And for that matter, as the police, I want to simply say that some of the suspects in some of the homicides are now deceased. I will not venture into how they met their demise, but yes, they are deceased, and it is for RSLPF and other stakeholders to have a discussion on how we approach these matters in terms of closure. So that is as much as I will say on that for now.
Just my last question for now. 41 attempted murders it was, right? 41 attempted. Quite a staggering figure as opposed to 2024. But can you expound on it a bit more? Is it that there are more incidents of attempted murder, or is it a situation where more persons are being injured in one incident, so there's more double shootings, triple shootings, those cases. And does that show a greater affinity to violence on the part of perpetrators?
Okay, so it's a combination of a lot of things. Yes, you're correct in saying that in many instances, coming out of one circumstance, there is more than one victim. So for example, recently, we would have seen an incident in Canals where we had 3 victims. There was an incident in Latuni, 2 victims. Down in Dennery, 2 victims, yeah? So you're talking about 3 incidents, but 7 victims. The same thing applies in these matters of shootings, that there may be more than one victim, and I want to bring us back to the incidents on Jeremy Street, Meekwood Street earlier this month. Was it earlier this month or last month? Yeah, last month. Where, apart from persons succumbing, that bystanders also got injured. So these add to the amount. I think what we have done also is to reconsider how we classify some of these offenses. So because of the climate in which we live, for now, in terms of gun violence, where we would have normally have ascribed, say, a matter to being causing harm or causing dangerous harm, we tend to, if the evidence supports it, bracket it as an attempted murder. So that too would have increased the numbers. Whereas last year, we would have recorded it as a harm or dangerous harm or grievous harm or whatever have you, or using firearm with intent to cause injury, which was what we normally did. We tend now to classify it as attempted murder, especially if during the commission of the circumstance that someone would have met their demise. Yeah?
Ryan Daisy, the Voice newspaper. No doubt, I guess Mr. Commissioner and the hierarchy of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force would have known or would have heard of the government's boasting of the support for the police, for the RSLPF in recent times. They have now gone out to put forward the commitment, the further commitment to the police force in regards to their operations, the operations at the moment. Are there any hindrances that precludes you from doing better at this present moment?
The Royal St. Lucia Police Force, like every other police force or organization, will always be in need of further resources. I think the issue on support from our employer is 100% correct. During my tenure as a police officer, I have not seen the influx of resources, administrative support that I've ever seen in this current period, ever in the history of the organization. I think we have been in a situation where when we realize that we are down with certain resources and we confront the employer provides the necessary resources available to us. Not only the physical resources. I think it was in January of this year that we augmented our supervisory corps by almost almost 52 new supervisors. That was one of the most significant supervisory shifts that we have seen in the history of the organization. We're talking about giving us several more inspectors to add on the inspectors that we have in the organization. several more sergeants, several more corporals. That culminated in the organization having that respective vacancies that we have subsequently filled. Let us talk about polygraphs. We have been given a budget to ensure that our police agency is the most compliant in the region when it comes to vettings and polygraphs. So far, we have already achieved a new 1/3 of the organization being polygraphed. In fact, next month in October, the regional security system has committed to conduct an extra 250 polygraphs for law enforcement in the organization. 200 for the police and 50 of them for the ancillary services like borderly and the rest. Okay? When we look at the amount of that we've spent in technology, we now have a new and live police management system where we can have a database to follow all what's going on technology-wise. In fact, that database was recently audited by RSS, but we'll be hearing a little more about it on the 22nd and the 21st of October of this year in our regional RSS meeting, which is being held in St. Lucia. When we talk about support, we talk about support from shifting the ministry where it was under a ministry of several other functions. And we saw the employer giving us a separate ministry headed by a separate permanent secretary to be focused on forensic, on law enforcement matters, so that we could expect a shift in the law enforcement situation. I think we've done 2 courses at the police training school for regular police officers. Currently, we have 80 regular officers being trained and also 15 port police officers. Simultaneously, we have 20 officers from the Bodley Correctional Facility being trained, and I think CCC started with 25 constabulary officers being trained at the Bodley Correctional Institution. All of these are part of our law enforcement arms. They're all special police constables or police officers by virtue of either the Police Act or the Correctional Service Act. So we've seen that support where we have trained 3 cohorts of special police constables. We have opened a new ranger unit, and within the last month or 2, we have integrated the rangers into the rank and file of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force so that they could accrue operational experience and guidance for when we send them out into their respective areas. So that kind of support is exponential, in my view. And that is the kind of support that we want to see from an employer. In fact, to support the crime management situation, we have requested 40 laptop computers for the use of all criminal investigative officers in St. Lucia. And we were given the budget to do 45 of these systems, which we paid for yesterday. The system will cause CID officers that when they come on the scene, instead of burdening the victim or the suspects of coming to the station to make the reports on another day, that contemporaneously, as soon as the event is happening, while the information is fresh in the minds of the suspects, of the virtual complainant and the witnesses, we are recording that information. That will be followed by the ability for these officers to print the necessary forms so that they could get the signage that we could start the investigations. So we have seen a technological shift, okay, in how we do things in the organization. So the Royal St. Lucia Police Force is not only about weapons, it's not only about searches, it's not only about boots on the ground, but we have been very contemporaneous in how law enforcement agencies deliver law enforcement services throughout the country. The RSS is not the only agency who is interested in some of the things that we are doing. We have seen other agencies come to us for support. I think up to yesterday, I gave the approval to send 4 persons to Dominica to support Dominica because Dominica made the request. We gave 4 persons to Grenada the month before to support Grenada because Grenada made the request. And then we gave 5 people, 4 or 5 people to Barbados. 5? 5 persons to Barbados to support Barbados with some of the issues that they have. We now have persons again supporting the RSS directly. Some of our officers are trainers there. Okay? So we're doing quite a bit in regards to the support by the employer to ensure that law enforcement is going the way that it's supposed to go. I hope that answers the question.
Sienna?
Testing. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sienna Dalso from Choice News.
What's your name again, the first name?
Sienna.
Sienna?
Dalso.
Dalso, yes, Miss
Yes.
Dalso.
Okay, so first, congratulations. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to say when it comes to the outcome of the investigations
The
related
plans.
to Tyson. Of course, the diplomatic consequences, if that wasn't the case, would have been dire. So that's good. I have a few questions, but I'll try to be as brief as possible. So on the topic of technology, there were recent calls among the public to outfit the RSLPF with body cams and dash cams. I did find a press conference from June 2023, which announced a donation of, by the RCT of dash cams and some body cams to the police. So I wanted to know what happened to those. Were they like insufficient, or yes, what's the case?
The issue of technology, of course, pushes us in the direction of accountability for officers within our ranks. And as a result, we have paid for body cams, and that is going to be rolled out quite shortly. The issue of the body cams, we still have to do a little bit more training on how we do it, but all the arrangements have been made so far for that. I forgot to mention the investment in CCTV. What a wonderful tool. We have over 800 CCTV cameras island-wide. That means there's no escape. Huh? So you see the 27 persons that have been charged for murder this year, we've gotten great support from CCTV. And I must say, apart from the CCTV, we committed to work with other governments to make sure that our transnational approach towards crime and criminality is dealt with. Remember that? Where 3 months ago, I mentioned that we will be doing some extraditions. So far, I had the names, I wanted to mention them. I wanted to mention them. Could you get me the names, please? Staff officer? So far, we've extradited 4 persons to Martinique so that they can face justice. We did one day before yesterday in the person of Yannick Gustave, aka Tiny. He was wanted by the French and he is now facing justice in Martinique, sorry. We still have another 11 persons that will be going to serve justice. Because we are of a situation where we have close borders, we need to work with our allies very closely. So those people that think that you could go to St. Vincent and commit a crime and escape with it, we will work closely with our neighbors to resolve that matter. Like I said sometime month before, we had an incident where some St. Lucians went to St. Vincent, and that culminated in the death of 2 Vincentian nationals. We have one of the vessels in custody. We have done the scenes of crime examination on these vessels, and we will make a breakthrough in regards to that matter. In fact, that was one of another instances where we work closely with our Vincentian counterparts, where we actually, we were actually required to send some scenes of crimes officers to St. Vincent to assist in the processing of the crimes. And that happened with St. Lucia all the time. Remember that even in regards to incarceration, remember St. Lucia helped in the incarceration of persons from Grenada at Bodley Correctional Institution before, from BVI, TCI. So that kind of transnational cooperation do exist, and we intend to work with it. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, I did have a follow-up. So when it comes to this being sort of historical investment of technology into the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, I wanted to know, given that many of these things are very expensive and so on, from an economic standpoint, how much training has gone into ensuring that the officers are able to maintain and repair that technology over time? And especially for the CCTVs, for instance, the digital storage and so on are very expensive assets. So I just wanted to know how much has gone into preparing the force for, to sustain that kind of technological utilization.
Well, currently in the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, we look at maintenance not as a cost, but we look at maintenance as an investment, really. We also look at training not as a cost, not as a bill. We look at training as an investment. And in every case of these technology that we've purchased, we have maintenance packages that support them. So for example, this gentleman at the back there, Mr. Paul Ernest, his company is responsible for the maintenance of the police management system. In fact, his company is a local company that built the police management system. In regards to training, training is an ongoing thing. We have training arrangements with all our technological partners. Further, we see training being done at a regional and international level with some of these paradigm shifts that we want to make. So indeed, we are looking at training and maintenance as an investment and not just a cost.
Okay, my third question for now, although I have more, it goes to the person in charge of the road safety department, I think it's called. So I wanted to know, Journée Creole is coming up. The driving under the influence has been a bit of a concern. We do know that there have been kind of normative shifts where you go to events and you're encouraged not to drive if you've drank too much. I wanted to know what may be done among the police force, are breathalyzers like on the way, or what might be done at least in the immediate during the month of October to ensure that there are no fatalities or serious accidents resulting from drinking during that holiday.
Thank you for the question. As done in the past, and you alluded to it in your explanation of the question, that the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, not particularly the Department of Road Safety, because it's a general policing effort that every police officer led by the Department of Road Safety, the initiative, and our press office to release in conjunction with the CDF PSAs that will remind drivers, and it's possible that we're not doing it enough, reminding drivers. Yeah, my apologies, the FRC and not CDF. Yeah, corrected. Thank you. Yeah, PSAs more or less reminding drivers about driving under the influence, the use of designated drivers to support them if the intention is that they go and have an excessive amount of fun during the outings. And that's not just limited to the Journée Creole. Recently, our public relations office released on social media a short flyer, so to speak, indicating that driving, if you drink and drive, you die. And if you examine the letters, these three words, the letters D-I-E is right there in the middle of it. So that's one of the things that we have done. And then specific to your question in relation to Journée Creole, there is an intention to deliberately release PSAs ahead of these events, and even during the events, Creole, to let persons know that they should not or contain their drinking to reasonable limits to avoid any fatalities or serious collisions taking place.
Good morning. I'm Josiah Bisset, Hot 7 TV News. My main question for today is, though the Royal St. Lucia Police Force has done many operations as well as seizing ammunition as well as firearms, that has been one of the increased, how should I put this, the increased way of a lot of situations happening for this year. So my question is, with the Royal St. Lucia Police Force still taking a lot of action in seizing a lot of these materials, there has still been an influx of them coming into St. Lucia. So what would be the Royal St. Lucia Police Force's stance in terms of dealing with the influx, especially for this year, with a lot of ammunition and firearms coming into St. Lucia?
Thank you, Mr. Bisset, for the question. Recently, well, firstly, we acknowledge the issue, and it's a very serious one, and it redounds directly to the deaths, murders that, and even attempted murders that are encountered year to year within St. Lucia. And it is correct, notwithstanding the significant police operations that net not just the individuals, but the weapons and ammunition, that there's still, the problem continues. Recently, the senior command of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force would have dialogued with the Financial Intelligence Authority, which is a law enforcement stroke intelligence authority within St. Lucia. There are also recent dialogues with other agencies, customs, where we believe that St. Lucia is an island, we're surrounded by water, and therefore there is a need for a renewed collaboration with these agencies to work together to stem that scourge of weapons coming into St. Lucia, resulting in all this carnage that is occurring. With regard to the collaboration that I mentioned earlier, there are plans to continue the dialogue where a few amendments will be made to specific pieces of legislation that would allow for a more efficient process to deal with some matters or some persons who find themselves in conflict with the law. The island does have an interagency intelligence committee, and just as I mentioned, the police, the Department of Customs, the Financial Intelligence Authority are comprised, and there is a need to foster closer collaboration on intelligence matters, on matters of operations, and serious investigations. And the dialogue has commenced, or recommenced, I should say, towards that effort.
Morning, Alex George from Radio Caribbean International. First question, I think, is for Mr. Lamontagne. The matter of classification of killings, of homicides, gang violence, gang killings versus reprisals. How do you make that differentiation? And are gang killings quite possibly reprisals in some instances? I just want to understand what do you mean by reprisals?
I should have qualified it in the presentation. And I think you actually stated the answer, Mr. George, that reprisals can occur gang on gang return killings, but it doesn't have to be gangs. What we found is that in matters where the families, friends of victims are not involved in gangs, however, there is this desire that, or some sort of thought, well, illusional thought that them either doing it, effecting it themselves, or paying a person to conduct revenge on behalf of their family or their friend does occur. So that's why the distinction between gang, because it's not only gangs that has reprisal killings. However, in other homicides, yes, we have found instances where family members or friends do go back and attempt revenge on behalf of their lost loved one.
Okay, thanks. For Mr. De Freitas, the matter of Tyson, you did mention the toxicology report did not find any evidence of rat bait. But just for the interest of clarity, are we saying that there was no sign of poison at all of any type with respect to the toxicology report? Or would that be subject to further investigation?
Thanks for the question, and I think I did make that clear. I say we want to further advance that toxicology testing. So for this particular one, it was strictly along the lines of rat-bait poisoning, because that is what would have surfaced in the report from the pathologist. But like I indicated, we do intend to pursue, and we have been advised to do it, just to clear the air on that poisoning matter. That for example, we will be doing lead poisoning, the heavy metal poisoning. We will be doing that, just so we clear the air on that aspect. As soon as we've done that, depending on the results, that is, well, wherever the results go, we will then go back to the pathologist for a review of his findings, because certainly the notion of the rat-bait poisoning has been negated.
Okay, thank you for that. And my other question, I suspect, would be for Mr. God. A significant rise in the number of rounds of ammunition found. I think you mentioned 4,800 or so. Are we attributing that specifically to particular types of operations? I mean, in terms of operations at the port, or, I mean, do we have a sort of a breakdown as to where that is coming from in terms of that increase?
Somewhere around December, we opened a new, I think it's gangs, narcotics, and firearms unit. And that unit have been energized to focus on the areas of responsibility. So we've seen an increased thrust in the amount of warrants that have been done. I think this year we've done 500 and, how many, Lamontagne? 534. 534 warrants. 534. That's a significant amount of warrants. And they have been spearheading that because they understand the correlation between firearms and ammunition and death in St. Lucia. So they're working to deal with it. They're also working with all the other agencies. It's a multi-sectorial approach, as we indicated. And we have partnered with FIA, with Customs, with Port Authority, with Borderley and the other agencies. So we're seeing that happening. Speaking of that kind of relationship, a multi-sectorial approach, I also want to say that we've had a significant issue with gangs, and which we inherited. And we did not think that the only approach to it is a law enforcement approach. So we brought in agencies like YDEP, Youth Development and Empowerment Program, to go into the schools and to intercept some of the perpetrators for the gangs and offer them a new direction. So I think we have been working the last 12 months with this and other agencies to try to deal with that. So, you know, the impact of these relationships are phenomenal, really, and we will continue. I think I see the director of YDEP, Miss Anya Charles, with us here this morning, sorry. And again, I want to thank her and the agency for the good work that they are doing with us. Okay?
Thank you very much. The matter of human resources, I mean, we've heard the Prime Minister mention, we're seeing an expansion in that regard. I think last December, you had 18 new officers. I think another 18 new supposed to be coming in December coming. Where does that place us, though, in terms of numbers? Because obviously I know there's an attrition process as well. Officers are retiring as well. Are we on an upward trajectory in terms of numbers, and what is the target? How far off are we from the target?
So currently, our Human Resource Department records 1,248 police officers attached to the organization, both for regular police officers and also for special police constables. We have, as I indicated a while ago, conducted 2 back-to-back trainings, and we will have a third one starting in January, and then the expectation is to continue until we reach an increase of our current complement by 240 persons. So we actually increasing the force by another 240 police officers. Attrition will always be a challenge. We have persons that go to new horizons on a daily basis, and of course persons who just have career management. So the amount of persons that we are hiring far outweighs the level of attrition. I think we've done a heavy amount of investment in regards to the hiring of staff. We only have right now, of course, because of the last course that we did, because most of the special police constables have moved over to the course, I think 43 vacancies for special constables, and 24 of them, all the vacancies have been advertised for persons to fill in the bicycle unit, and the rest will be distributed to Immigration, Department of Road Safety, and so forth. And of course, we have the upcoming 80 vacancies to fill in January. So we're seeing it going up.
And my final question is with respect to the matter of homicides, which tends to be what everybody looks at as the main metric regarding crime. You've also heard in the media space a lot of references being made towards Jamaica and some of their successes in terms of bringing down their homicide numbers. Are there any lessons to be learned there? I mean, in terms of what you're hearing coming out of that side, the Jamaica Constabulary?
Well, we have the opportunity of working with Jamaica and other Caribbean countries. And what we do, we look at some of the best practices and we implement them on a case-by-case basis in St. Lucia to support the direction of where we're going. I must say that when we look at some of the instruments for example, the clearance rate, I think last year, the last time I looked, and we had about 15 to 16% as being the mean clearance rate globally, right? I think we at what percentage right now in regards to clearance? Almost 45, 40%, you know? So relatively on the global stage, in regards to how we deal with our crime, you know, it is something for, you know, the rest of the globe to look at also. But we are looking at best practices, not only from Jamaica, but from all countries which possess the best practices.
You mentioned my name earlier. We're speaking about when you deploy your police. I believe I sent a photo to you last week with 10 policemen in the same area. And last week we had, I believe, the school children. I'm talking about the schools there now, where we see a lot of fights in town these days. And then you see 10 policemen in one area. One. The other one is the noise pollution within the city of Castries. I live in the center of town, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Noise pollution. What is the police force doing when it comes to the noise pollution? Are there any instruments? Obviously you bring a man to court, so you need to measure the decibels or how you call it. You understand? So what is being done on the noise pollution within the city of Castries and throughout St. Lucia?
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton, and I admire your every consistency, you know, with the deployment of the policeman and everything. So, really, Mr. Hamilton, I can sit at my desk and determine how police officers are deployed in the town. That is for the line managers to do. Again, strangely, there are indicators that we're doing things in the city. Recently, there was a news item. Say the police harassing the students in the city. The only way we can do that, Mr. Hamilton, is if we're there. Yeah? So maybe seeing police officers 10 in one area, maybe the situation calls for that grouping being there. We never know. I don't manage every single situation on the road, so I cannot sit here and safely tell you that the practices being adopted are wrong or right. It is for the line managers and those persons who supervise what is happening on the ground to manage the deployment of persons who are there. What I am happy, though, to hear you say, is you saw 10 police officers in one area. So it means there might have been another 10 somewhere else. So the fact is, what I've always tried to push to you is that the police officers are there. But you see, you have a very technical way, you know. I don't know how you want to do the aggregation and how it best works for you. But that's really for our commanders on the ground to deal with, Mr. Hamilton. but I'm happy you still lending some credence to the work we're doing. The fact that you're seeing the officers, right? And that is the important thing. With regards to the noise pollution, again, I sit on a committee, again guided by the esteemed office of the Attorney General. We are presently working on looking at a draft Noise Pollution Act, where a number of amendments, a number of new insertions will find themselves part of that act. As it is now, we still use the provisions afforded us in the criminal code. We do respond to reports of the noise pollution, and but really, the new piece of legislation we're working on is going to, in very large measure, assist us and give us some more teeth in dealing with this noise pollution situation. Again, we are hoping that this is a piece of legislation that will roll out before year end. So let us wait and see how this thing pans out and how it assists us further. Yeah?
I will take 2 final questions.
Before we take the other question, I just wanted to provide some information specific to the extraditions that the Commissioner spoke of earlier. So earlier in the year, we had Michael Zeniga, who was extradited for the offense of drug trafficking, Fabian Cherubin for kidnapping and murder. In August of this year, we had Cletus Polius for the offense of robbery, and Yannick Gustav, which would have been the most recent one this month, for the offense of robbery. Thank you. Matnik, yes, sir. Zeniga, which is spelled Z-E-N-E-G-A-A-R.
Okay, so, all right. Sienna Dalso again from Choice. Yes. Yes, Sienna Dalso again from Choice. I wanted to ask, especially in reference to a report I did last week, what rights do citizens have, if any, to document their encounters with the police? We have seen some instances over the past few years where citizens attempt to photograph or videograph their experiences with the police, and it results in a bit of an escalation in these encounters. So I just wanted the opinion of top management here. That's all. I'm talking to you.
Thank you very much. I think in June of this year, this question was posed to us. And I can tell you, the hierarchy of the force, the senior management, and I think every other police officer within this organization should be comforted by the fact that we go out on a daily basis. And the hope is when we do that, we are acting professionally. So there's absolutely no issue if one decides to document, record, or whatever word you want to use as it pertains to an operation that's been conducted. I would have said on the last occasion that what is important to happen when a police officer gets on the ground is to ensure that this area that we are working within is protected by yourselves. Once we have taken up our position, then every other person stays on the outside. We don't have any control as to what lenses people are using to do the recording. So we have absolutely no issues. So the recording can be done. And we spoke also in terms of the advancement in technology. We spoke to the dash cams and the body cams. When they come around, it's going to be one that's going to be working both ways. If a report is made, the data is captured, it can be used, one, to indicate exactly what transpired on the day in question. So if it is something that is found where somebody is making a report which has no substance, it can be dealt with that way. And similarly, if the police were to be found acting contrary to the laws of this land, then the necessary action can be taken. I hope this answers your question. Allegedly. But again, there is the avenue available to any member of the public who believes that their rights have been violated in any way. So you make a complaint, whether to the police station or visiting the the police complaints unit, so that your matter could be investigated.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Jeremiah Joseph, representing HTS. Last week, the government of St. Lucia had an emergency press conference concerning about the number of homicides and what's happening in the country, basically calling for the police to do more. It seems that the police are doing more, but the information is not being reached to the general public and things. You think this press conference you're calling here right now, I believe that it needs to be more of this. So I'm asking, what message can you send out there to the general public and the government to ensure that the police are doing more? It seems that the information is not reaching.
Well, I would like to say two things on that. The press conference has been consistent. We have done it, especially during my tenure, every Thursday of every month. But I realize, every last Thursday of every month. But I realize that it may not be enough to touch everybody in St. Lucia. So I have commissioned a news item from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. We will have what we call the RSLPF news at 5. So at 5 o'clock on a Monday, Wednesday, and a Thursday, in the first instance, we will be providing that news on our own platform. So I think this may be a consistent way to reach the public. We chose 5 o'clock because certainly we do not want to compete with the mainstream media. And again, we will provide that information so that y'all can, the media would have the opportunity to pick up some of these stories. We have many, many instruments that we use to try to sensitize the public and everybody else. And I can tell you this much. There are certain people that just, they're not abreast with recent events. And some of them are just simply not interested. Last week, I met a gentleman on Brogley Street. And he called me, "Hey, director, how you doing now?" So I smiled, you know. So I told him that, oh, I have changed. I'm at the police now. See, you're at the police? Tell me it's been 12 months. I'm now the commissioner of police in the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, and that is well documented. The gentleman told me he didn't know. You understand what I'm saying? So to me, we have a responsibility as St. Lucians to know, you know, what is happening around us. I want to take this opportunity again to thank the public. I think that the public is generally satisfied of how transparent the Royal St. Lucia Police Force have been, especially over the last 12 months. We've been very, very transparent. I also want to take the opportunity to thank the media. The media have been very consistent in its delivery of the data from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, although I think we're still missing one or two. But I want to encourage them to come across. In fact, I want to even encourage some of the talk show people to come and get the facts in the context of the press conference. Because some of what I hear on the talk shows are certainly inaccurate. I mean, one of the basic things that we should do is validation. And that is where I can give this gentleman, what's his name again? The Elliott guy, Dale Elliott, right? I could give him a plug. because Dale Elliott validates. And if we all take that approach, I'm sure that too can have an impact on the murder rate and law enforcement in general. Because we do not want to create an atmosphere where people are looking at the situation like it's a doomsday thing, when we have 40% reductions in robberies, 40-something% reductions in burglaries, and the general figure in regards to reduction in crime is actually 16%. And that's the fact. So I encourage them to come here or even to call me to validate, because my phone number is available for all the media houses and for all the talk show people to call me to validate X, Y, and Z and A, B, and C. I don't have a problem. Now, one of the things I have had a challenge with is to go and sit in the talk show and to answer the questions. I think moving forward, I will do a bit of that, because I think it's necessary to go on any talk show. So the public will ask me any question, and I can answer the question and give them the facts. So I will be, or my senior command, in fact. You too, Mr. De Freitas. My senior command will be endeavoring to go to the talk shows. So I will now give you all an instruction. I want to see once a week at least 2 of you all. I want you all to go on, give me some of the talk shows. Huh? Can I help you? I want you to go on. Newspin is a talk show? Yes. I thought it was just like a call-in program. So they take guests? Oh, Newspin is the one in the night?
Or Newsmaker Live?
Yeah, Newsmaker Live, yeah. So I want you all to go on Newsmaker Live. You understand? What else? Which other one? Special report, the lunchroom. I want to see at least 2 of these are done a week. Okay? That's on your job description now, Mr. Shalry. So from next week, we're committing to Newsmaker Live next week. Okay? We'll also commit to the lunchroom. Right. I think there's another one, you know. Can I help you? We'll commit to the real issues everywhere, so that at least the public could be better informed. I want to, again, although I did it in the beginning, but I want to do it again as I'm leaving. The most important resource in any organization, is the human resource. I want to say that the morale is visibly up amongst the employees of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. In fact, we have done some recent recruitments, Ms. Romulus, haven't we? Okay? And what we have to show is very open to everybody. The officers are working well. The officers are consistent. We have a few challenges, because whilst officers are going above and beyond, there will be personal limits, you know. Even sometimes I speak a little louder than I should. So we will find, and I thought that question would come up today, but the questions are done. We will find from time to time, you know, an officer make a mistake here or there. And that is why we've put in place the apparatus of complaints, so that persons are free to come and complain, the officers. We've seen a little decline in that, and I want to encourage it among the general public. I think I have an assistant superintendent, I have an inspector, I have 2 sergeants, and support staff for that particular area. If we are not satisfied with the complaints unit, we could also go to the complaints commission. And the complaints commission will take the specific complaints and order the complaints unit to do it. And if we're not satisfied, you could always come to the office of the High Command, and we too will entertain members of the public. Thank you, staff, for supporting me over the respective period. Very happy with the support that you've been giving me. I want to say that we will get increased resources, and these resources will redound to a better Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Thank you.
To the end of our press conference. Thank you for joining us online and also to those here present. Please do have a pleasant afternoon.
Thank you.